Chapter 1. The Stone Lions and the Shivering Friend. The morning air was the color of a pale grape, cool and quiet before the sun had decided to wake up. Maya sat on the wide stone steps of the public library, a place that never seemed to fully sleep. Even at this hour, a soft, golden light glowed from the tall windows behind her. The two stone lions on either side of the entrance, their manets worn smooth by 100 years of rain, kept her silent company. A truck rumbled down the street, its brakes hissing as it stopped in front of the little corner store. A man in a blue uniform jumped out, his breath making a small white cloud in the air. He began unloading clinking crates of milk bottles, his movements quick and practiced. A moment later, Mr. Sal, the owner of the newspaper stand, arrived. He wore a thick woolly hat pulled down over his ears and carried a tied-up bundle of newspapers. He nodded once to the milkman, a silent good morning that they shared every day. Maya watched them. She watched the first bus of the day sigh to a stop, letting off a single passenger, a baker, covered in a light dusting of flour, heading to the bakery down the street. She knew the city's morning rhythm by heart. It was a slow, steady drumbeat that told her a new day was here. Her stomach felt like an empty little cave. She curled her hands into the pockets of her thin jacket, trying to keep them warm. She wasn't looking for anything in particular. She was just watching, just being a quiet part of the city's waking moment. Then she saw it, a tiny flicker of movement near the big green trash can on the corner. It wasn't a piece of wind-blown paper. It was too deliberate. A small, scruffy creature, mostly gray and white with a patch of orange over one eye, stepped out of the shadows. It was a cat. It was thin, its fur was ruffled, and it walked with a little shiver, placing each paw down carefully on the cold pavement. The cat looked up and down the empty street. Its ears twitched, catching the distant clang of a metal door. It saw Maya sitting on the steps. Its big green eyes blinked slowly. It took a hesitant step toward her, then stopped, unsure. Maya didn't move. She didn't call out. She just sat very still, making herself as small and quiet as possible. She held her breath. The cat took another step, then another. It moved silently, a little gray and white ghost in the pre-dawn light, until it was at the bottom of the library steps. It looked up at her, gave a tiny, silent meow that was more of a puff of air than a sound, and shivered again. Chapter 2. A Saucer of Rainwater. The sun was up now, casting long, thin shadows across the square. People were starting to fill the sidewalks. A woman in a bright yellow raincoat hurried past, holding a big, colorful umbrella even though it wasn't raining. A boy on a scooter wobbled by, his backpack bouncing up and down. The little cat had not moved from the bottom step. It sat hunched in a tight ball, trying to keep warm. Maya named it Patches because of the orange spot over its eye. Patches looked thirsty. Its little pink tongue would dart out every so often to lick its nose. Maya knew she couldn't bring the cat inside the library. The head librarian, a tall, serious man named Mr. Gable, had very strict rules. No food, no drinks, and definitely, absolutely no animals. She had seen him point a long, bony finger at a sign with a picture of a dog with a big red circle and a line through it. But Patches needed a drink. Maya looked around. A small puddle of clean rainwater had collected in a dip in the pavement from last night's shower. But how could she bring the water to the cat? Her eyes scanned the ground. She saw bottle caps, old leaves, a crumpled bus ticket. Then she saw it, a single, smooth, gray stone, shaped almost like a tiny bowl. It was perfect. She picked it up and walked quietly to the puddle, scooping up a little bit of water. She was careful not to spill a single drop as she carried it back to the steps. She placed the stone bowl on the step just above Patches. The cat looked at the stone, then at Maya. It stretched its neck forward, sniffed the water cautiously, and then began to drink, its tiny pink tongue lapping up the rainwater. The big doors of the library opened with a soft whoosh. Mr. Gable stepped out. He wore a neat gray vest over a starchy white shirt, and his glasses were perched on the very end of his nose. He was placing a sign that said "Story time at 10 a.m. into a holder. He didn't seem to notice Maya or the cat at first. His movements were precise and unhurried. He adjusted the sign until it was perfectly straight. Then he cleared his throat, and his eyes swept over the steps. his gaze finally landing on Maya and the little cat drinking from the stone. He frowned. Maya's heart did a little jump. Mr. Gable looked at the cat, then at Maya, then back at the cat. He adjusted his glasses, opened his mouth as if to say something about the rules, but then closed it again. He simply gave a short, sharp nod, turned around, and walked back inside the library, the doors hissing shut behind him. Chapter 3. The warm smell of green things. The morning sun did not bring much warmth. A chilly wind had started to blow, rattling the bare branches of the trees in the square and making people pull their coats tighter. Maya felt the cold seeping into her bones. Patches shivered, pressing close to the stone wall of the library, trying to find a spot out of the wind. A warm place. They needed to find a warm place. Maya gently scooped the little cat into her arms. Patches was so light, hardly more than a bundle of fur and bones. The cat didn't struggle. It just curled up against her jacket, burying its cold nose in the crook of her elbow. Holding Patches carefully, Maya started to walk. Her feet led her away from the main road and onto a quieter side street paved with cobblestones. At the end of the street was a shop she had always liked looking at. It was called Flora's Flowers. The shop front was painted a cheerful green, and even in the cold, pots of hardy little pansies provided splashes of purple and yellow. A little bell tinkled as Maya pushed the door open. The air that washed over them was magical. It was warm and humid, and it smelled of damp earth, sweet blossoms, and green growing things. It was like stepping into a summer garden. The shop was a jungle of color. Buckets of roses, lilies, and bright yellow daisies filled the floor. Ferns with long, feathery leaves hung from the ceiling in baskets. In the back of the shop was a glass-walled room, a small greenhouse, where the air was even warmer and filled with sunlight. A woman with curly gray hair tucked under a wide-brimmed hat was humming as she snipped the leaves off a rose stem. She wore a canvas apron with pockets stuffed with twine and little wooden plant markers. She looked up, and her face broke into a warm smile. "Well, hello there," she said, her voice as gentle as the flower petals. "And who is your little friend?" Maya didn't know what to say. She just held Patches a little tighter. "He looks like he's found a very cozy spot," the woman, who must be Flora, continued. "But I have an even cozier one. The greenhouse in the back is the warmest place in the whole neighborhood. The sunbeams love to take naps in there." Just then the shop bell tinkled again. A young man carrying a tall, wobbly stack of cardboard boxes stumbled in. "Delivery for Flora," he announced cheerfully. He took one more step, tripped over a watering can, and the boxes tumbled to the floor with a soft thump. Nothing broke. "Oh, Marco," Flora said, laughing. "One of these days, you and Gravity will decide to be friends." Marco just grinned, rubbing the back of his neck. "We're working on it, Flora. Progress, not perfection." Chapter 4. Sunbeams and a Buzzing Bee. Flora led Maya and Patches toward the small glass room at the back of the shop. Inside, it was wonderfully warm. Rows of tiny seedlings sat on wooden tables, their new green leaves reaching for the light. A single bumblebee, woken up by the heat, buzzed sleepily near a bright pink geranium. "You two can sit here for a while," Flora said, pointing to a low wooden stool in the corner. "It's out of the way, and Patches will love the sun." She winked, as if she already knew the cat's name. Maya slid down onto the floor, leaning her back against the warm wall. She let Patches down, and the little cat immediately stretched out in a patch of sunlight, its paws extended and its belly exposed to the warmth. Within a minute, a tiny, rumbling purr started in its chest, like a small, happy engine. Maya watched Flora work. She moved with a calm, peaceful energy. A woman came in, her face looking worried. "I need something," the woman said, "for my friend. She's not feeling well." Flora didn't ask what was wrong. She just listened, then chose a bunch of bright yellow daffodils. "These always remind me that the sun will come back out," Flora told her. The worried woman's face softened as she took the flowers. Marco, the delivery boy, finished stacking his boxes neatly in a corner. "Okay, Flora, see you next week. Try not to let all these plants get too wild without me." "I'll do my best, Marco, but I can't make any promises," Flora called after him with a laugh. Time passed slowly in the little greenhouse. The sunbeam patches was sleeping and moved slowly across the floor. The bee visited a few more flowers before settling on a leaf for a rest. Maya felt the tightness in her shoulders begin to relax. The warm, quiet air was like a blanket. She wasn't hungry anymore. She wasn't cold. She just felt still. She closed her eyes, listening to the bee's buzz and Patch's steady, rhythmic purr. For the first time all day, the world felt completely safe. Chapter 5. A broom, a biscuit, and a saucer of milk. The light in the greenhouse began to change from bright white to